And I think I would much rather listen to Brett all night. So, so that was a beautiful way of starting the session. So just so everybody knows, I'm not a professional speaker. This is how do you say no to Furuz when she asked you to do something. So I think we're all just getting experience. She can just, Furuz, I think you should take everybody's name down and just for the next 52 weeks, just randomly pick people's name. So hopefully tonight we will all refresh our memories in terms of, what the topic is tonight. So thank you, Maureen and Firuz. So hopefully we'll have fun. And at the end, we began with beautiful music and we're gonna end with music. And I think as you were listening to Brett, no wonder Abdu'l-Baha says that, when music is played with and used with the words of God, it's from the spiritual realm. So I think all of us are kind of mellow now. So if we can carry that throughout the evening, that would be fantastic. I wish we were all in one location and that way I would see everybody's face, but it seems that I only see a few faces. Once I start sharing, then I'm not going to be seeing that many faces. So at the end, I promise there's some parts of it that I'm going to go through faster. I'm just going to make sure that we finish ahead of time so we can have a bit of discussion. So there is, it's dark, it's black, but that doesn't mean that the rest of it is going to be dark and black. So the topic, as Maureen said, it's the coming of age of humanity. And this is exciting because this is our collective journey to maturity. So throughout the session tonight, what I was hoping to do, it's kind of like a buffet, to have a little bit of, if some people like to hear somebody talk, and then we're going to pause at some of the slides. So, and different colors. So hopefully something will be attractive to each of us so we can pick and choose the different sessions. So let's find out what makes us mature. So the premises, so let's all start on, there's a beginning. So the Baha'i faith sees the present state of human affairs as a natural stage in an organic process. And there are certain things that, I've highlighted because those things that really, they resonated with me. And I'm hoping that, in reading some of it, that the same kind of things you can kind of pick up as well. So natural stage, organic process, which will finally lead to the unity of the human race within one social order. So I think sometimes people, when we say that some people might immediately say that, that's wishful thinking. It would be nice, but it's wishful thinking. But I think for a group of people around the world that are working towards that, that's not a wishful thinking. That's actually something that they're working towards. So let's go through this journey. Humanity as a whole has gone through evolutionary stages similar to those experienced by an individual. Having passed through infancy and childhood, it is now experiencing the difficult culminating moments of a turbulent adolescence. So we can all, see that if we look around the world, it's very easy on a minute to minute, second to second, we can see that there is confusion and turbulence and so many things that are dividing us. But if we actually took the perspective that maybe this is a natural stage, then we are able to better understand it. So if it's turbulent, then, and it's supposed to be, then we know that, okay, this is a stage that we're going to go through. The present state of confusion, doubt, and belligerence is simply to be understood as the condition of an adolescent who strongly desires growth and maturity. but is still attached to childish attitudes and customs. So if we look at humanity as collective, because I know we look around and we go, what? Maturity? What? Like we might not see signs of maturity, but actually, if we look really close, we obviously, confusion, doubt, and belligerence, those are much louder, but then there are signs when we kind of get rid of those kind of dust and veils, we can see that there is growth and maturity in the world. So let's go and see if we can find it together. Yet the moment is ripe for this adolescent to take a final step and enter the constructive and dynamic but balanced state of maturity and adulthood. So we know that one thing that a lot of people have hope, but then there are some people that have hope and a vision and are working towards it. So that kind of separates us from, in terms of a group that has hope, but there's no plan, eventually they lose hope. But I think when we have hope and there's a plan and we're moving forward, that's where we can see constructive, dynamic, balanced steps toward maturity and adulthood. Baha'u'llah wrote that all men have been created to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. We're blessed that God loves us so much that the manifestations of God have guided the organization of society at ever higher levels of unity. The story of humanity has unfolded from the family to the tribe, through city-state to nation-states. That journey has today brought us to the threshold of our long-awaited coming of age as a human race. So some sections, as I said, beginning, we're going to go quick, but then we'll kind of pause at some of the other ones. But just to give us a little bit of a glimpse of, when Baha'u'llah says, we all men have been created to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization, then we know that emphatically that we can, as human beings, we can achieve the plan of God. God continues to set humanity's direction. The manifestations of God themselves refer to their individual revelations as but partial expositions of truth, limited only by the capacity of humankind in any given age to receive them. One of the most amazing things I think in life is perspective. So if we were to take the perspective that God, if we kind of all agree that God is our creator and he has sent these special beings, these special, wonderful beings, manifestations of God, like Muhammad and Christ, Baha'u'llah, Krishna, Zoroaster, Moses, those special beings, if we can think of it as the whole humanity, as, students in a classroom, God being, in charge of all these teachers, these beautiful beings, and, directing whole humanity in terms of sending these beautiful teachers to teach humanity. And just imagine that the information that they give to humanity, it's only limited by the capacity of humankind. It's not the capacity of the teacher, or we know that if we take the premises that God is one and all of his manifestations are from God, and they are at each level, at each, throughout the history of humanity, if we can imagine this one religion of God being unrolled over time. So as we go through infancy, and we become into adolescence and, towards maturity, then obviously responsibilities change as well. So just, I'll go quick through these, just to give us tonight, obviously, this is a topic that we can spend hours and days and years on it. Very quickly, Christ's words just to say that, it's not the manifestations that were limited in knowledge. It was that humanity couldn't take all the knowledge that they had. So with Christ's word saying, I have yet many things to say unto you, but ye cannot hear them now. And there's an echo in Quran, which states that divine truth is sent down in due and ascertainable measures. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the following words are found. I come and go and come. When righteousness declines, when wickedness is strong, I rise from age to age and take visible shape, thrusting the evil back and setting virtue on her seat again. So we can see that, just a little bit of different religions, obviously, because of time, we can't bring all the different religions, say that each of them gave us what humanity was able to comprehend at the stage that we were at. For centuries, followers of every religion have awaited the revelation of a fuller measure of God's guidance to the world. Those expectations are today fulfilled by the message of Baha'u'llah. I think even this one statement, there's so much that we can discuss on it. And one of the things that I take from that is what a blessing that we are all alive. We're here. We're all, the whole world, that we are at a stage that we can see murmurs of our collective maturity. So how amazing is that, what generations have waited for, we can actually be here to see a glimpse of it. So what makes us mature? All created things have their degree or stage of maturity. So how beautiful it is that in nature, everything we see in nature, those are lessons that we can learn. And so what makes us mature? So let's find out what makes things in nature, things that God has created, mature. The period of maturity in the life of a tree is the time of its fruit bearing. So this is, remember at the beginning, I said there's going to be different colors and things. And we know that we as human beings, we have a natural inclination towards beauty. So the next, few slides, it's just, maybe we can just take in some of the beauty that it's in nature, and knowing that when we know that a tree is mature, it's when it's giving us fruit. So if we take it to how do we know humanity is mature, those are the things that are absolutely things that are on the table to be discussed in many settings all around the world. So let's just have a bit of fun looking at these beautiful colors. Don't worry, you haven't lost your sound. It's just sometimes we need silence. As we continue, so into the plant world, so the maturity of a plant is the time of its blossoming and flower. So I think there's a pattern that maybe we can look in nature and see there's a pattern in terms of our collective maturity as well. So let's just see, how when we look in nature, this is just perfection. And even though it's beautiful when it's all closed up, but it's nothing compared to when it's blossoming. If we look around and we see the perfection all around us, how can we doubt that collectively, as human beings, we're not capable of achieving the plan of God? It's impossible. If we look around, at the perfection. The animal attains a stage of full growth and completeness. So we see that all around us. So let's find out what makes us mature. And in the kingdom, human kingdom, man reaches his maturity when the lights of intelligence have their greatest power and development. So if even like hours can be spent on just discussing this one statement, lights of intelligence have their greatest power and development. So we know that in order to achieve even that one tiny, the lights of intelligence, that means education, but not just any kind of education that is reflective of spiritual education, and having a balance with other areas of knowledge, but making sure that we as humanity are getting the spiritual education as well. So lights of intelligence have their greatest power and development. We see glimpses of that. Like if we look back and we come, like time is such a beautiful thing. It gives us perspective. So if we go back and look where we've come and where we are and where we need to go, there's a long ways to go, but at least we can have an appreciation of how far we've come. And, you know, if we look at this and you go, oh my God, it's science and numbers and things like that. But we know that sciences and arts and crafts and they are, you know, from the spiritual realm. So, and the harmony of science and religion, all of that is different pieces of the puzzle that need to come together. We all go through the natural process of maturation. So I thought we would have a little bit of fun. So human growth and development, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, always progresses through a series of stages. So it's so normal for us to see the physical growth and the intellectual growth, and maybe a lot of times emotional growth. But sometimes it's very hard to see spiritual growth or even measuring that. We can kind of measure our heights and say, oh, this child has grown. And we all do that, you know, somewhere in our homes, we mark, you know, our child growing up. And we kind of get their emotional growth. And so spiritually, that is something that I think we need to become better at measuring, as well as instilling in ourselves and our families and anyone that we come across. Our sequential maturation begins within the embryo, continues after birth, and then fits a pattern of normative development, progressing from childhood to adolescence to adulthood. So we can see that. Just as we grow up physically, we also mature intellectually, psychologically, and spiritually. Our spiritual growth, its stages detailed for us by the mystical traditions of the world's great faiths, also unfolds in stages as we mature. I think the others, it's such a, you know, we can see a child growing up, we can see their intellect, we can see their emotional. And one of the things that we still, like, in addition to all the other areas that we have to make sure that we focus on as well, is the spiritual growth. And that, how beautiful is that, that comes from God and all of the spiritual beings throughout humanities. And if we go back and study all the different religions, we see that it really is set in a very beautiful, you know, if you would think of all the religions as one religion and each of the religions as the chapters in that one book, then you go from one chapter to the next chapter, it builds up on another. There is no disconnect between any of the religions of the world, because God is the one responsible for each of those beings. So how can there be a disconnect if the author of all of those chapters is the same? God who created us. We move through those stages at our own pace and as a result of our own initiative. But the sequence itself usually progresses along a predictable path. You might look around the world and say, where do you see maturity? You see, like if you really, really look, we can see maturity in certain aspects. And of course, there's still other places that it has to catch up. But we know that collectively, we are capable. We are at a stage that we are capable. We see the need as well. Whereas maybe in our stage of infancy, there was no thought of the global anything. It was just, just as an infant, maybe, our thoughts were, what do we do in the playground? Like that was the very limited in terms of our thinking as a humanity. In the study of the holy books of different faiths, we learn that identifying and comprehending those stages allow us to better understand and direct our own spiritual journey. So there is no disconnect. There is a progression. And when we read, there is a theme in each of the religions. When you read the Bible and the words of Christ, it teaches us how to treat our neighbors, how to treat our friends. The writings of Quran, that goes beyond, the expectation is that we've learned how to treat our friends. Then we need to go into a bigger arena to how to be kind to our nations. And so we are at a stage that, we should have learned. If we haven't learned, then we can still go back and learn all of those stages and come to the realization that we are at a global arena and our behaviors and responsibilities are at that level as well. So, same question, what makes us mature? Even the tiniest form of life starts out as a tinier seed that contains its own genetic code, destined to mature through time into the fulfillment of that code. So how beautiful is that? Like there is a code, like in the tiniest seed. And, let's see some examples in nature in that aspect. Acorns become oaks. Like how amazing is that? How truly, like sometimes they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That is something that I found that it's just, sometimes you just need to see a picture to realize the potential. So I see the potential in humanity. All of us have that built-in desire to grow, both physically and spiritually, needed into our very beings. So for those of us, not me, that like to make bread, I like to eat the bread, but so just imagine that is something, the desire to grow is needed into our very beings. Like it's just there physically and spiritually. So when one is lacking, usually, one you can measure, the physical one. The other one, it's not maybe visible to the eye, our outer eye. Spiritually, if one is not growing, then there is that imbalance. And sometimes we wonder what's wrong with, why do I feel this way? Is that there is an imbalance in our spirituality. And that's something that maybe we need to feed that a little bit more than our physical self. The world's pulse right now is racing. That is so true. Progress, once slow, has accelerated enormously. We don't even have to think, is that the case? Like, we just know. We can just look and around us, even in the smallest city, we can look around us and we know that the world's pulse is racing and progress has accelerated as well. At this point, would we, the human race, be mature yet? So that's the question on the table. So let's find out. According to the Baha'i teachings, we stand at the threshold of maturity as a species, the age of planetary civilization, a time of unity and diversity, of material and social interconnectedness. So really, we're at the threshold. So at the threshold of anything, it's the hardest. It's like we have to let go of the things that were, and we have to step into this new path of responsibility and progress and thinking. So it is the most hardest is that threshold and going beyond that. So what are the prerequisites for success? So I'm sure that all of us want to be successful. So let's just find out how we can do this together and kind of collectively bring all of us, all of humanity, to the threshold of maturity. We must manage to achieve spiritual interconnectedness by recognizing our oneness. So I'm just looking at the time, and I'm going to go a little bit quicker just so we have a bit of time for discussion as well. So to that end, the Baha'i writings ask all of us to act as protagonists in creating a just and unified world. So it's kind of like if you go to a theater and, instead of there are people on the stage and you're the audience, you're being entertained, then you go to a theater, which would be the global, the Earth theater, that everybody is a participant, that, that is not just one group entertaining another group, is that we all work together. So we are all where we each have a role to play in this theater that it's the global humanity. Our anxiety may be justified, but it can also be corrosive, distracting us from the work that needs to be done and threatening our resolve. So this is a new chapter in the life of the planet has been opened. So remember those chapters in this one religion of God? So this is a new chapter. So we need to put away the childish things which seemed necessary in the day of the survival of the fittest. This is a new cycle of human power. The gift of God to this enlightened age is the knowledge of the oneness of mankind and the fundamental oneness of religion. So these concepts, even though I'm going to go through it very quickly, these concepts are very, very, very profound. And for discussions, conversations, having with our friends, to discuss, well, what does it mean, oneness of mankind? What does it mean, oneness of religion? So and it brings about a lot of misconceptions and things that maybe we grew up in different cultures, different religions, different countries, different everything, that we don't realize that the essence is the oneness of mankind and oneness of religion. I think once we come together and agree on that, we are able to go through and solve all the challenges that we see all around us, racism, the extremes of poverty and wealth, so many other things, the inequality of men and women, so on and so forth. So how do we do this? For this to occur, a period of massive change must move the world out of its current condition. Ultimately, Baha'is and their friends believe that Baha'u'llah's message of unity functions as a mighty instrument for the transformation such a massive change demands. In the coming of Christ, the divine teachings were given in accordance with the infancy of the human race. The teachings of Baha'u'llah have the same basic principles, but are according to the stage of the maturity of the world and the requirements of this illumined age. So obviously our responsibility, as we have collectively mature, we're not there yet, as we have collectively matured, obviously is more. The process of maturation forms the basis of all life. Study it and you will discover a profound truth. Okay, so this one, just looking at the time as well. The emerging meaning of our world's current suffering, turmoil, and pain will, Baha'u'llah reassures us, result in the growth, the development, and finally the full maturation of the human race. These wonderful principles of peace, harmony, and world unity aren't the sole property of the Baha'is. They're gifts from the Baha'i teachings to all humanity. So it is the next chapter in God's revelation of that one religion of God. And these are principles that are for humanity. And of course, they're going to be difficult, but just imagine a butterfly. If a butterfly doesn't go through the struggle, then it cannot come out as this beautiful butterfly. And if we have to learn to allow certain humanity to through its struggle, learn how to grow and come out on the other side a beautiful butterfly. So I think if we take the perspective that challenges and difficulties are things that will give us the experience and teach us and let us learn, then we realize that, and we are assured by Baha'u'llah that all of these pain and suffering will actually makes us to become collectively on the verge of maturity. What can we do? We can all use the power of language and the power of our actions to call for exemplify the qualities we want to see in our maturing civilization, as opposed to the ones we don't want to see. Let's focus on creating a balanced, non-violent, sustainable, just, orderly, creative, respectful, child-friendly, inclusive world. And sometimes people say, well, how can we do all of that? Well, remember that book of God, the Revelation of Baha'u'llah has all the principles that we can do that. And these colors are the color of the rainbow. So, it kind of, if you look out there and you go, how is a rainbow created? Well, it's, and we appreciate the beauty, then one of the things that we can do as humanity is find out what we can do. And if we can do little together, it adds up. Some assembly required. I'm sure all of you have bought something that says assembly required. So we as humanity, each of us, we have the pieces, and we know not one person or one group can do this. It's a collective. Everyone needs to participate in the whole world. Everyone needs to participate to put the pieces together. Your contribution is a piece of the puzzle. So how amazing would it look like if we all created a world without boundaries, without these imaginary lines, without that the world that everyone can travel wherever they want. So I wanted to conclude this evening. Okay, I'm gonna go with a music. So we started with beautiful music, and I hope that this gives us, collectively, in terms of what each of us can do. Every single person matters. Every single soul matters. Every single step matters. And every single one of us can do something. Even if you think it's little, it's not little. So let's play this, and I'll come back and see all of your beautiful faces again.
Stand all together, one voice saying yes we can. Each one, reach one till we pull ourselves up, cause we all one fam. From the rest to the block, to the Perry, to the rock, we connect that love. Cause the people with power feel the power of the people when we stand as one.
I got you stuck off the realness. We be indigenous, you heard of us. Max Heaven, the murderer, spreading the love with the water and earth. And the stand against hate, gotta know what the purpose is. We rise, the climate is changing, signs of the times. It's time to start praying. Pray for the world and community. Prayers are more powerful when we're in unity.
Up today, hungry for a change, new path to take. Can't stay the same, it's been too long. Pointing out who's right or wrong, can you hear me out? All we need is a little bit of love. Take time to heal and it starts with us. Hand in hand, I put my trust in one world, reunite, it's a must. Hold on to hope, we can overload. We can break the code with a single note. Sing out for the world to hear that our time is now, no more for tears. I looked into my son's eyes, a new day in a new light. Lift the veil and dwell so peaceful. Come together, one world, one people. What I know, we are one. What I know, no, we are one. 'Cause who you are is who I am. We all bleed the same blood, yeah. Hey. We all bleed the same blood, yeah.
We got beautiful differences, let me give you a peek. Over 500 tribes, but we all unique. And if we could not compete to eat, nothing could beat us. Jealousy is more dangerous than diabetes. See this unity? Imagine what it looked like. You would think we would do whatever it took, right? I would do anything for this good life. We could do anything if we unite.
Young native, you are my savior. Say your prayer for our inspiration. From the block to your reservation. Any color, all my relations. From the basement, worldwide invasion. Every day we're painting our faces. Fighting back but learning our language. Dancing our dances, saying our prayers.
One people, we stand all together, one voice saying yes we can. Each one, reach one till we pull ourselves up, cause we all one fam. From the rest of the block to the Perry to the rock, we connect that love. Cause the people with power feel the power of the people when we stand as one.
thank you all for being here tonight. I give it back to Maureen, and if there's any questions, then we'll go from there. So thank you for listening, all of you.
Wonderful, Emelia. Thank you so very much. I'm seeing comments in the chat and just a beautiful presentation. Before we get to our discussion, I think we were going to bookend with another song, a devotional song from Brett. So I'll welcome Brett. I don't know if you want to stop recording there, Brett. All right. Brett's just getting ready there. Emelia, can you give us the name of that